Good evening, patrons. It is time for October's patron Q&A. I am slipping in right under the wire here. It is 9:30 p.m. on Halloween night, October 31st. I have had a hell of a week, which is why I'm like so late getting this done. But I have a bunch of questions from you guys, so let's knock out a few of those for our monthly video. So first up, Frank asked, if I could be one character from the Marvel or DC universe, who would it be and why? So that's an interesting question. And it's also, I'm going to take it at face value, in which case it sounds like you're asking if I could actually exist as one of those characters as they are, as they're written or portrayed. Which one would it be? As opposed to, for instance, if you had asked if I could have like the powers of one character, who would it be and why? But I was still me, I was still like, I had those powers, but I was in my life. So I'm going to answer it. It sounds like, again, it was asked the first way, so that's how I'm going to answer it. And this is something that even now, like, I feel like changes from day to day based on my mood. But right now, if I had to choose which character to be and why, it would be good old Captain America. And so the reason for that is, aside from the fact that he's got, the serum, the super soldier serum has made him, incredibly strong and resilient and all that sort of stuff. I just feel like Cap and his recent Hydra storyline notwithstanding, Cap has always represented, like the person I think a lot of us wish we could be, like just unerringly moral and willing to stand up for and sacrifice for what we truly believe is right and good, just something that I think that most people aspire to. And so I think that if I could if I had to choose a character to become, I think I would choose Steve Rogers. Okay, so next up, Zero Care asks, who or what was my inspiration for Court Ryder, the protagonist, or one of the protagonists of the Starcaster Chronicles? So we can go ahead and lay out the obvious ones on the table right away. You have Han Solo, you have Malcolm Reynolds, and even though I started the Starcaster Chronicles before Guardians of the Galaxy came out, retroactively Chris Pratt's portrayal of Peter Quill, aka Star-Lord, has become also kind of wrapped up in there as especially in terms of Court's wit and that kind of stuff. A lot of the times when I'm writing the dialogue, I'm kind of picturing Chris Pratt delivering the lines, his voice. So those are the those obvious ones, that sort of lovable scoundrel archetype, space adventure sort of thing. But my other inspiration for the character was to take that archetype, to have that one of those kind of characters of my very own, but put him into maybe a more difficult situation in terms of, like, for instance, when we meet Han Solo, there's this idea that he's been involved in some obviously illegal and likely morally gray or ambiguous dealings in his past, but what we see of him through the through the movie is mostly him being the good guy, doing the right thing, and that sort of thing. And so we also see Court doing a lot of that, but he has a past that's much more conflicted, and we've seen a little bit of that sprinkled in over the first 5 issues, but it's something that will going forward, especially since now in issue 5 we've finally reached the location where the Starcaster is going to be, and the Starcaster is this incredibly powerful object that has the potential to change or alter the the political landscape even of the galaxy that they live in, the universe that they live in, and so now that Court's kind of ended up at the center of that, there are going to be things in his past that that come to light. Maybe he can't hide from, and mostly one of the things he's going to be dealing with is in future issues is, does he maybe like the idea of being a good guy a little bit more than he likes the actual practice and the requirements of being a good guy and doing the right thing. And so that was one of the things that I just really wanted to play with was, this, and again, it even kind of almost goes back to, the question I answered at the start of the video is, this, drive to be the, the sort of the moral standard and be the good guy versus, what the reality is, the reality of living and the choices that you have to make that make it incredibly difficult to actually be that, beacon of goodness. So yeah, I mean, from, like I said, from character standpoints, we have the obvious ones, but I just wanted to play around a little bit more with the conflict and really that divide, that pull in both directions, versus like doing the right thing even though it's like really hard, or doing the easy thing, that may not be the best thing, so that sort of thing, and how he comes to terms with that. Okay, and Paul F asks, if I had to choose one gaming platform, what would it be? So that one's pretty simple, I think. I would have to go with PC. And it's really just about the variety. It's the variety, and it's the fact that a good number of console games get ported to PC. Sometimes it takes a stupid long while, but a lot of the bigger AAA console titles will make their way to PC in one form or another, whereas I think you see fewer PC titles end up on consoles later if they're not, if it's not planned from the get-go. That, and also the fact that you just can't beat the variety that you have access to on the PC, from MMOs and shooters to like just Steam's full library of all of the indie and as troublesome as they can be, the early access title. I just played this game the other day that was entirely about Finland in the 90s and getting drunk and trying to build a car from scratch. I don't think you're going to see that on like the Xbox Xbox Live games library, even though both of the consoles, PlayStation and Xbox, have made a lot of remarks about wanting to support indie games, and they've definitely done that. You can't match what you get on Steam. And so if for some reason, and again, I play all platforms regardless of manufacturer or whatever, but if I had to choose one to stick with, and I was only allowed to play one for the rest of my life, I would have to pick the PC, just because I think it would give the widest variety. Okay, so that's it for the Q&A for this month. Once we hit November, I'll put up another thread. You guys can throw out additional questions. If your questions didn't get answered, just throw them out again, and I'll eventually get to them all. And that's about it. I hope you guys had a happy Halloween. Thank you for watching.